Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video we are going to play around with some of the JavaScript primitives, specifically numbers and strings. We're going to do some simple math, we're going to talk about order of operations in the modulo, and then we're going to play with strings. We're going to concatenate strings together, we're going to talk about escape characters, we're going to access the length of strings, and we're going to access individual characters in those strings. So let's start off with some simple math. In JavaScript, you can simply type out your math problem, 12 plus 8. You hit enter and it returns 20. So you can do some basic math. I don't know, 5 minus 9 gets you negative 4. You can do decimals, 3.14 plus 22 gets you 25.14. As I mentioned before, and I'm going to mention it later, JavaScript numbers don't differentiate between floats and ints and all that kind of stuff. They're all numbers. You can do multiplication, 3 times 20 is going to be 60. You can do division, 2 divided by 9 gets you 0.2 repeating. Notice that it's not perfect. It doesn't go out to a literal infinite decimal, but it goes out a whole lot. Another thing to note is that the order of operations is followed. So for example, I can do 3 minus 8 times 24 and get 189. Or I can do 3 minus 8 with parentheses around it times 24, get 120. So JavaScript follows the order of operations. If you're not familiar with the order of operations, just go look it up. It's that whole PEMDAS thing if you remember from middle school. There's one other numerical operator I wanted to talk about. It's called the modulo. You've probably experienced it before. I'm not 100% sure what it is in C++, but in JavaScript it's the percent sign. What it does is it returns the remainder whenever you divide two things. So for example, if I have 10 divided by 4, it's 2.5, but if I do 10 modulo 4, it returns the remainder, which is 2. Because the remainder of 10 divided by 4, 4 times 2 would be 8, which would leave 2 remaining. You could do 12 modulo 6 would return 0 because 6 goes evenly into 12. A lot of times you'll see this used to determine if a number is even or odd. So you might do 15 modulo 2 returns 1 if it's odd, and it returns 0 if it's even. So that's another possible use for the modulo. Let's go ahead and clear our console and we can talk about strings. Now, JavaScript does not care if you use single quotes or double quotes around your strings as long as you use the same one. So for example, I could put Josh in double quotes and it takes that as a string. I could also put Josh in single quotes and it takes that as a string. You'll notice that it returns that string with double quotes because it doesn't care, so it defaults to double quotes. I cannot, however, do double quote Josh, single quote, enter, it'll do a syntax error. But you can nest them, so for example, I could put you can't do that, and hit return, and it works fine. Does not matter because I've got the double quotes on the outside, so it ignored that single quote on the inside. The reason this didn't work is because it thought that I never finished my string. I never closed it with that double quote. You can also do the opposite. You could do open with singles and put, I don't know, lots of stuff, yo, and then put a single quote inside, and it works just fine. Not a problem at all. So you can nest those inside of each other if you want to. The next thing I want to talk about with strings is how you can concatenate them together. If you're not familiar with the word concatenate, it simply means stick them together, add them onto each other. So I could do John plus the plus fisherman. Enter, and it sticks them all together. Notice that it puts them all together into a single string, and it does not have any spaces between them. So if I want spaces, I have to add them. John, that's my name, John space plus the space plus fisherman. Any Primus fans out there, there you go. JavaScript strings have an escape character, meaning that if you need to use a spoken for character, you can. You just have to preface it with your escape character. In JavaScript, that's the backslash. For example, if I'm going to use single quotes, I could put, I'm in your base killing your dudes. But you'll notice this is giving me problems unless I go back here and put a backslash in front of that, and now it works just fine. The backslash basically tells JavaScript, hey, the very next character is not special. It should be just considered part of a string. It escapes is called the escape character, so it escapes its normal features. If you need to type a backslash, you have to double it up. So here's a backslash. I can't just put that because then it never ends, but if I put a second one, now it works. Because this backslash escapes this backslash and says just treat it like a normal character, not anything special. Let's clear our console again. The next thing we're going to talk about is how you can get the length of a string. This will come in very handy later on when we start talking about loops and you start doing string manipulation. So you can make a string. Unleash the Archers, great band if you have not heard of them, and then just simply put .length on the end, and it will tell you how many characters that has. Max.length has 3. So you can do that with any type of a string and just put .length and it will tell you exactly how many characters that has. You can also access the individual characters on this string as if it were an array. If you're not familiar with arrays, we're going to talk about them later. Again, you should be familiar. This should be a review, but if you're not, we're going to talk about them later. So to access the individual characters, you use square brackets. So I can put hello, and then on the end, put my 2 square brackets and the number of the letter in the middle starting with 0. So if I put 0, it's H, because arrays start at 0. So the very first one is 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I put hello and then 4, it's going to get that O. If I put hello and then 5, because hello has 5 letters, you might try it, but it's undefined, because there is no 6th letter here, because again, they start at 0. If you're not already in that mindset, you need to go ahead and get there as quickly as possible. Start counting at 0. The H, the first character is 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's pretty much it for this video. I know it's pretty short and sweet, but that is how you are able to do some simple math. That's also how you're able to create strings and do a few things with them. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to help. Thanks.